concrete walls. There's a place for us where we could go, where we could be alone. Between city lights, we don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
What's up, everybody? I'm Joshua Bardwell, and you're going to learn something today. Welcome back to the live stream. It is Sunday afternoon. It is 1 p.m. Eastern time where I am, and we are streaming. Thank you guys so much for coming back after last weekend. I missed my streams. I missed one of my streams because I was coming back from International Open, so I got to go to I.O. To everybody I saw at I.O., nice meeting you. We had a great time. I had nothing to do with any drunken golf cart carousing that knocked over gates. No, I really didn't. I was sleeping, nursing a case of bronchitis, actually. So I have an alibi. I was not the one driving the golf cart that knocked over the gate. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just trust me, you're better off. All I'm saying is, here's the thing. Sunday morning at I.O., one of the gates on the main track was knocked down. And here's what I know. I was there for the final. The final happened at about midnight. The last race happened at about midnight. They throned a winner. They did all the closing ceremonies and took all pictures. Everybody went over to Jesse Perkins' Tiny Whoop tent. Jesse Perkins throws a hell of a party, if you don't know. Tiny Whoops are about... I've always said that... I haven't always said this. But ever since I got into Tiny Whoops, I've said that Tiny Whoops are about so much more than just flying. They're about the social aspect, the fact that you can sit around your living room with a bunch of your friends, you know, drinking your beverage of choice, having a good time, none of the stress. Like, you go to a race and everybody is stressed. They're having a good time, but they're serious business. Tiny Whoop rate, it's never like that. Everybody's just having fun. And Jesse Perkins embodies this. He's Mr. Tiny Whoop. He embodies this better than anybody because he throws this party. This is this giant tent with lights and tiny ones flying around, and people serve drinks, and everybody has a great time. And I saw it, was like, okay, all right, yeah. I said hi to everybody, you know, and then I was like, okay, I gotta go, because I had a bronchitis you can probably hear I'm still probably not 100%, but that's why I skipped Monday's live stream, because I didn't want to like lose my voice completely. So anyway, the sound is cutting. Oh, I hear that. What is that? That's weird. Okay. Wow. Oh, I hear that. Thank you for letting me know. Hold on. I don't know what to do. We'll try this. Hold on. How about now? Now it's good? Yeah, now it's good. I unplugged and replugged my my microphone. Okay. All right, let's keep going. So, Jesse Perkins, no. I heard it too. It was low, and anyway, it's better. Jesse Perkins throws a hell of a party. People are having a good time. I looked around and I said, okay, I gotta go. I gotta get some sleep. And I wake up the next morning and everybody's annoyed because somebody smashed a golf cart into. Okay, no, I'll tell you the true story. I wake up the next morning and I'm in the RV I came with Rotor Riot, and I'm kind of rolling around the RV, like just waking up, and Drew comes out of the back because he's the president, so he gets the bedroom in the RV, and he says, "Oh my God, the party was lit last night." This is not a direct quote. I'm like, "Really? What happened?" He was like, "People were driving golf carts around. They were drinking. Somebody smashed a golf cart into one of the gates." I was like, "For real?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Who did?" He's like, "I don't know. I don't know who was driving." And so I look online, and sure enough, right on the MultiGB Facebook group, there's an angry post with a picture of the gate smashed. And my opinion on this is, it sounds like it was a great party. I mean, it sounds like I've been to Burning Man. You, in the middle of the night, a whole bunch of people drink a whole bunch and do crazy things, and something gets broken. Nobody went to the hospital. Nobody died. Nobody got injured. That's just a good party. You know, it sucks for the volunteers. Here's the thing. If you were the one who broke it, I would have hoped that like you would have come the next morning and helped set it up again. Right. Just be like, hey, sorry, my bad. But I don't feel the need to crucify anybody over it. It could have been much worse. And it just sounds like a winner of a party to me. Anyway, so that's what I did last weekend, and now I'm back, and hopefully my voice is going to be okay. Yeah. There are some questions. So here's what we're doing. Now that everybody's warmed up, now that we got the audio issue figured out, Alex, that one's not on you. That one's not on Alex, my producer over there. That was an equipment issue. Nobody could have predicted that. You sounding good though? You sounding good? Okay. Here's what we're doing. I am. Really? There we go. I am checking your questions out here. Your questions out here in the chat. I'm going to answer as many of the questions as I can. And the questions come by so fast, though. They come by so fast that if you want to make sure your question gets flagged, then you can send a super chat just by hitting a $sign right here. And as Gary Weatherford has done here, every so often I make sure I go through and clear the board of super chats. I guarantee I will get your super chat unless I overlook it accidentally. Sorry, every so often I do that. And then over here on the left, we've got my Discord server. This is my Discord server. It's a chat server, and patrons, if you join my Patreon, you get access to the Discord server, and I do make sure to clear those questions as well. So that's what we're doing. We're just going to answer questions. Yeah. People still commenting on the golf carts. The thing is, here's the thing. Everybody was trying to figure out who did it and was passing around pictures and saying, oh, here's so-and-so on a golf cart. And in fact, at one point, Drew was being accused of doing it, which I don't think he did it because, like the first thing he said when I saw him in the morning was, oh, it was so crazy. Somebody smashed then that's not, it doesn't seem like that's what you would do if you were the one who was driving. You'd be like, Oh, really? I don't know anything about that. But people were passing around pictures and going, aha, there's so-and-so on a golf cart. So many people were driving the golf carts. There's no way from a picture of someone on a golf cart if you know that they were the one who was actually the one who smashed it. And also, some people were like, how dare someone do this? What a vandal. Nobody, I mean, I wasn't there. I was sleeping off a case of bronchitis. But I don't think anybody did this maliciously. It's just people got drunk and were having a great time screaming. When I left, they were drifting the golf carts. And someone said, yeah, we took the governor off it so it goes faster. And they were literally drifting the golf carts in circles. And I was like, this is about to get crazy. So I think they were just having a good time. An accident happened. They were drunk. They went and slept it off. And I don't think anybody did it maliciously. Just one of those things that happens. If you want to crucify somebody, blame the owner of the golf cart. Figure out what golf cart it was, and because ultimately they're the one who's responsible. Anyway, but as someone said, no one should be mad about this, because if it weren't for people like Jesse Perkins throwing great parties, then the only people who would come to I.O. would be racers. And it would just be a bunch of racers sitting around seeing who could go the fast and then going to sleep. I.O. is a huge event that draws all kinds of people from all over FPV. They just want to be there. And part of that reason is that after the racing is done, somebody throws a crazy-ass party every night. Okay, anyway. It was not PVC decode. It was actually, and it was the big, too high cube dive gate. It was a pain in the ass for that. It took them a couple hours to get it back up again. So, I mean, I understand why they're annoyed. It messed up the schedule. But as someone who has been involved with running events like this, like I not only attended Burning Man, but I actually was part of the Georgia regional burn and was on the board of directors and had a team lead position. So I've been involved with running events like this, and maybe the guys who run I.O. are really good at running a race, but maybe don't know about dealing with intoxicated people. Because at Burning Man, at Burns, we had rangers, we had a team whose whole job was to just kind of be present all night long, just keeping an eye out for crazy shit that's about to go down. And if you know people are going to be drinking at your event, and you know there's golf carts, and you didn't, do something to head off that, then that's kind of on the organizer. That may not be a popular opinion. But, maybe maybe next year they'll have a policy to deal with it. But anyway. Okay, so let's get to some questions. And I see some questions coming in about Ntsc and Pal. Questions about Ntsc and Pal cameras. There were a couple questions just drifting in. So let's talk about that. When you buy a camera, the real question came in that somebody said, hey, when I buy the Foxeer Micro Aero camera for the JB budget build, it's available in both Ntsc and Pal. What's the difference? Ntsc and Pal are two different television standards for sending literally old analog television over the air. Ntsc is used in the United States. Pal is used in Europe and much of the rest of the world. And there are slight differences in the picture. Ntsc is 30 frames per second with a slightly lower resolution. I'm not going to remember the number of TV lines. And PAL is 25 frames per second with a slightly higher resolution. Those are the big differences for FPV. Some FPV pilots say that they prefer PAL cameras because the slightly lower frame rate they don't notice, but the slightly higher resolution they do notice. That's an argument you could make. One of the things you need to know about Ntsc and PAL is it doesn't matter. If you're in Europe, you can still use an Ntsc camera. It's only if you're a television broadcaster that you have to match the standard. So you can get whichever camera you like. And basically all FPV goggles work with both Ntsc and PAL, so there's no issue with compatibility. So pick the one you like. Some people feel that the way that PAL handles color looks better as well. I'm not sure if our FPV feed is so screwed up. I'm not sure how useful that might be. But so it doesn't matter whether you get an Ntsc or a PAL camera. Whichever one you get, it will work. There may be some slight difference in the picture. You do need to know that your Betaflight OSD it needs to know whether you're using Ntsc or PAL, or the OSD won't display correctly. It will try to auto-detect, but sometimes the auto-detect doesn't work correctly. So in the Betaflight OSD tab, there is an option where you can manually set Ntsc or PAL. And if your OSD is ever not working right, the first thing I tell people to do is to manually set NTSC or PAL. Just pick, if you don't know which one your camera does, pick one. If your OSD reappears, great. If not, pick the other. And if your OSD reappears, great. So let's see. What was the other question somebody was asking about NTSC and PAL? I don't know. There's one more question. I'm trying to look in the chat and see. Yeah. Okay, I guess that's it. There we go. Gabrielle Bruni wants to know about the giveaway of the charger box. I haven't pulled the winner of the charger box that I'm giving away, Gabrielle. I will be doing that today, and I will make the announcement today on my channel. Mad Sloper wants to know, is Betaflight Rescue a reliable return to launch, return to home? Mad Sloper, Betaflight GPS Rescue Mode is intentionally not called return to home. It's called GPS Rescue because return to home implies that like you're going to auto land, and Betaflight doesn't do that. Basically, what Betaflight GPS Rescue does is aim the quad at the home direction and fly towards it at a certain altitude. And then as it gets close to the home point, it begins to descend, and it continues to descend until it either hits the ground or until you take over and land it. So you need to be there to take over with Betaflight GPS Rescue. Now, is it reliable? It has some what they call sanity checks because Betaflight GPS Rescue works without a barometer and without a compass. It's only basing itself on the GPS data. And although GPS data does give direction and altitude, it's not as accurate and precise as if you had. So if you look at any like iNav, RGPilot, Pixhawk, any of the guys that are really set up for autonomous flight, they want you to have a barometer and a compass and a GPS. But Betaflight knows that the mini quads, the racing quads that Betaflight is commonly used on, often do not have those sensors. So Betaflight made GPS Rescue Mode work with just GPS, but it's not as reliable as if you had those extra sensors. So it has these sanity checks, and if it thinks anything is slightly wrong, the quad just drops out of the air. So Betaflight GPS Rescue is definitely better than nothing if you're flying Betaflight, and especially if you're doing like mountain cruising or longer range stuff, but it's not at the level of like a full return to home. Let's see here. Jeremy Choto asks, if you see bad interference in your goggles, but it's not in your DVR, what could it be? DVR playback is crystal clear. Jeremy, that is a fantastic little piece of troubleshooting you've done there. That's really insightful and really thoughtful. The same video signal is coming in from the receiver, and then it's getting split, and one side's going to the DVR and one side's going to the screen. So if you see one is good and one is bad, that tells you that the receiver is outputting good signal. What it suggests is that there's something wrong with the goggles. That's a tough one, though. What's getting interference? I'd want to know, Jeremy, I'd want to know what kind of interference it was and what it looked like. Like, one thing I'm thinking is, what if have you got like something plugged into the AV port on your goggles? Maybe that's messing up your screens, but I'm pretty sure the DVR also records input from the AV port, so I would think it would also mess up the DVR. You definitely, Jeremy, have identified that it's not the receiver module, though. So it's got to be something to do with the goggles. Yeah, that assumes the DVR is built into the goggles. Good point, 507RC. Assumes the DVR is built into the goggles. If the DVR is not built into the goggles, then that starts to maybe explain why the goggles would have messed up signal. Yeah. Got a couple super chats coming in, and they are, wow, $10 super chats. Thank you, guys. Very generous. Let me grab those. Gary Weatherford, thanks for $10. If the exposed board on a micro camera touches the carbon frame, would that cause bad video and blackouts? Yes, Gary, that could cause that. It's not guaranteed, but it could create some kind of a grounding issue. That you're not crazy for suspecting that. One of the things I try to do when I've got video noise that I just cannot solve take all the guts out of the quad. It's a pain in the ass, so like you really got to want it. But take all the guts out of the quad and spread it out on a table, you know, instead of having it all clustered up in the quad touching, and see if you still have video noise. And that's the thing you can try to do. Let's see here. Flying Brian, thanks for $10. That's it. Hope you enjoy the Myrtle Beach quad shirt we sent you. Oh, yeah, I did get that. Thank you, Flying Brian. Not wearing that shirt today. I'm wearing my quad pilot shirt. People ask where I get these shirts, and I should probably plug this more often, but I get these cool shirts from Quad Box. It's the Rotor Riot subscription box. And I know that subscription boxes are kind of controversial. People, you got to, like, subscription boxes, I mean, my partner, Issa, is really into subscription boxes. She gets different subscription boxes all the time. And you kind of have to accept that, like, you're going to get kind of a weird mishmash of stuff, and you're not going to love all of it, but you kind of want just a novelty of getting something in the mail every month. So people look at the subscription boxes and they go, oh, I didn't like what was in it this month. It's like, well, it's kind of just the nature of subscription boxes. If they were awesome every month, then, I don't know, then they would cost, you could just get retail price. But anyway, with the Quad Box subscription boxes, one of the things I like about them is every month they have an original t-shirt. Some of the designs are a little better than others, but I personally hate clothes shopping and I like cool designs. And so I just love, this is one of my favorites. I actually don't wear this one as often because I like it so much. So, yeah. As long as we're talking about subscription boxes, I should point out that Get FPV, hello, screen capture, there it is, thank you. Get FPV has started a new subscription box called FPV Crate. It's $50 a month, that's more than some others. But at least the first month people have been really impressed with what was in it. And here's the interesting thing about this one. They actually put these boxes together in Asia. They have a fulfillment center in Asia or a factory. And then they ship them to Texas, and they're distributed from Texas. I don't know why. But here's the thing. If you're in Europe or another country other than the U.S., you have not been able to buy the subscription boxes because they're so expensive to ship out of the U.S. This one, I believe, if I heard correct, the shipping is the same. Whether you're in Europe, anywhere in the world, the shipping is the same. So if you've wanted an FPV subscription box, but the shipping has kept you from doing it, check out the Get FPV new monthly subscription box, FPV Crate. There you go. Oh, Get FPV Express. Here it is. Unlimited free shipping. Oh no, that's a new thing. That's a different thing. That has nothing to do with the subscription box. My bad. So, yeah. Anybody in the chat get an FPV Crate? The first month was awesome. I hope they keep it up. I feel like, here's the thing. I've seen some of the work that the guys at Quadbox do. The guys at Quadbox, Bachgrinder heads it up. There's a team over there of a couple guys. They work their asses off every month to put the box together, because you have to go to vendors and say, I need 1,000 of your flight controller for my subscribers, and I need it at less than retail. I need it at a cheap price otherwise. And people are like, no, I'll just sell the damn thing. It's really hard to round up products for a subscription box because you need a lot of them. You need them on short notice, and you need them at a cheap price. It has to be the right product. And I hope that Get FPV, with their just massive inventory and massive marketing clout, might be able to do a better job than maybe a smaller vendor of pulling together a subscription box into something consistently good. So, Gene Denny says, set up Patreon but can't comment in Discord. Gene Denny, go to the hashtag patrons-welcome channel to see how to link your Patreon and Discord accounts together, and then you'll be able to do it. Speaking of the Discord, let's go over to the Discord. Hello, patrons in the Discord. What's going on? Let's see what's going on here. Evening, everybody. I'm not going to say hello to each of you individually, but thank you for being there. Pardon me if I cough a little bit today. Throat's still a little rough.
OXDB wants to know, I'm on the verge of buying an EV800D unless there's a compelling argument to be made for wait for the Fat Shark Recon V3 or the Scout. OXDB, the EV800D is a great goggle in the I think it's about $80 or $100 price range. You won't go wrong with the 800D. The Fat Shark Recon and Scout, you can look up the specs for the Recon and the Scout. The main thing you get with Fat Shark is you get a good quality. Typically with Fat Shark, you get a good quality, well-built product with Fat Shark's great after-sales support and good optical image quality. Fat Shark really focuses on image quality. But usually with Fat Shark, what you give up is you give up a little bit in terms of features. For example, a Fat Shark device might not have a DVR or might not have diversity, whereas a Chinese one, a cheaper one of another brand might have those things. So I think you just have to decide whether you're a Fat Shark customer, whether the after-sales support, the warranty that they actually back up, and good image quality, good fit, whether those things are worth the trade-off for you. I definitely think you should be looking at the Recon V3 or the Scout. Also be looking at the FXT Viper, which is a little bit more expensive. It's around $160 and is quite good. But if you just want to get in the air today and you want to buy the EV800D, just do it. Just do it. It was not a bad goggle, and it's going to be usable as like a ride-along goggle or a screen on the bench, even if you end up upgrading to something else later. Johan Verrept says, I have Recon V2. It's fine for the price. Ion FPV wants to know what I think of the Orca's FOV. Is it too big? No. Ion FPV, I've had my face in an Orca goggle. The field of view is perfect, especially because, bear in mind, it's a 16:9 screen. Think about field of view is diagonal, typically. That's not always how it's measured, but the standard is usually that it's measured diagonally, which means that the field of view of a 16:9 screen and a 4:3 screen, they're going to actually be a little different. If I have a 45-degree field of view and it's a 16:9 screen, then when I go into letterbox mode, you see, the field of view actually gets a little smaller. So I fly 4.3, and if I owned the Orcas, I'd be using them in letterbox mode with my 4.3 cameras. That's a topic for another day. But no, the field of view for the Orca is perfect. It's great. My bad. R123RR. Did I get it backwards? Is it a 4.3 screen? Did I get that backwards? Hold on. I may have misremembered. Does Orca have 4.3? That's right. That would make sense because that's actually the one that I like. Is Orca 16:9 or 4.3? Let's see. 1280 by 960. Hold on. Let's just check that. 1280 divided by 960 is 1.3. Yeah, no, it's a 4.3. My mistake. I apologize, guys. See, I'm just on the live stream, just spouting off my mouth. I got something wrong. I apologize for that. The Orca is 4.3 native. It's 4.3 native. Good. That's what I like anyway. If I had a 16:9 goggle, I would use it in 4.3 aspect ratio. But the bottom line is this. The conclusion is I've looked in the Orcas. I like the field of view. It's right about where I think it needs to be. It's good. So, Affinity disagrees. He wishes Orca was 16:9. Okay, getting back to the Discord. How do I set up audio? Borges wants to know. On my Fat Shark Attitude V4 using the TBS Unify Pro HV Race. He bought his earbud kit. Borges, the TBS Unify Pro HV will have an audio input line. Let's just look this up real quick. TBS Unify Pro HV will have an audio input. Here we go. So you can see in this image here, here's the audio. Can I zoom in? Here's the audio line. Notice that the audio line on this one is distinct from the smart audio line. Those are separate on newer Unifys. So there's the audio line, and that's where your microphone is going to go. And then you're going to plug the earbud in. And here's the thing. I don't have a set of goggles near me. On the Fat Sharks, the earbud input is on the underside. It's not on the side here. It's on the underside here. That's where the earbud goes. That's the bottom line. Is it bigger than HDO? I don't remember what the FOV is on the Orca. What do they say? I think they say it's like they say field of view 44 degrees on the Orca. So the HDO is, I think, 43 degrees. No, the HDO is, I'm sorry, that's the HD3. The HDO is like 37 degree field of view. So yes, the Orca will have a larger field of view. And I personally today I fly HD3s as my main goggles. And I have flown the HD2s in the past. HD2s had a 50 degree field of view, which is so big, and I do like that. But eventually I transitioned to the HD3 with a slightly smaller field of view. And I've gotten used to it. I do feel like the 37 degree field of view on the HDOs is smaller than I prefer. It is definitely flyable, definitely usable. But I feel like the 42, 44 degree. The thing about the 50 degree field of view on the HD2s is it's hard to get good edge-to-edge clarity, which I always was like, yeah, but I like the big field of view. The other thing is that you have to kind of look a little bit. You have to like glance down at your OSD, whereas with the 44, 42 degree field of view, it's just a little bit easier. So I think they're really in the sweet spot. Any news or changes in the Frsky D8 fiasco, asks Frank Barajas. No update. I do think that Frsky is going to support D8 mode with a firmware update on their new Access radios, but it's not official that they will be doing that. Okay. Can you mix, Mr. Bigglesworth wants to know, can you mix different ESCs together on one quad? You can, Mr. Bigglesworth, and I'll bet you most people wouldn't notice the difference, but I always try and have the same ESCs just because it seems like that's the right thing to do. Bam Bam asking about issues with Crossfire. Bam Bam, that's an issue that would be better to dig into off a live stream. We're going to have to dig into that. So message me privately and we can talk about that, Bam Bam. But let's not dig into it on the live stream. And I see the patrons are already helping him. So that's good. Okay, back to the chat, back to the regular chat. I do see some super chats coming in. I will get back to those in a second. But Ashwin Vurmans, my drone lost power to the VTX. The red wire broke. I resoldered it to the flight controller, and now the quad's motors don't get power. As soon as I plug in a LiPo, no motor beeping and twitching. So, Ashwin, here, if you plug in the battery, the XT60, and the ESC doesn't make any beeps at all, that tells you that the ESC is not getting power, or the ESC is just dead. The thing is, even if the flight controller didn't exist, when you plug in the XT60, the ESC should go doo-doo-doo. That first three beeps basically is the very initialization of the ESC. And if you don't hear that, then the ESC doesn't have power or it's dead. So the next thing I would check is plug a battery in very, very carefully with your multimeter. Test for voltage on the ESC power pads, the XT60, where it solders. And just make sure that the ESC actually has power. And at that point, if you don't hear the beeps, the ESC is dead. That's too bad. I don't know how one little red wire breaking would cause that, but there you go. Hate Eternal Maver wants to know, I got R9 and my first test I got 0 LQ and 7 RSSI. But I had full control. Is there something wrong with RSSI from aux channel? Yeah, I mean, Hate Eternal, here's what I would do. By the way, thanks for making me say Hate Eternal again and again. Go to your telemetry screen on your X9D or whatever radio you've got. Go to the telemetry screen and actually look at the value of the telemetry sensors there on the telemetry screen, and that will tell you the actual value. A lot of times between the telemetry screen and the OSD, there's things that can go wrong, but that's the first thing I would check is what is your actual LQ and RSSI. I didn't know that. Does R9 have LQ? I didn't know that. That's interesting. Thank you, Random FPV, for performing your moderation duties. Thank you for that. Random FPV is here in the chat. I'll give him a little shout out. Random, you want a shout out? Maybe you just prefer, I don't know. How you been, Random? I haven't seen you lately. Random lives in Knoxville. He's a friend of mine. Random FPV is moderating the chat for me. Here's his YouTube channel. He does a lot of stuff, but one of the things Random does is he runs Quad House. Oh, Random, I didn't know you spelled it with a Q. I've been spelling it with a K. My bad. Quad House is basically, and also look how awesome his set looks. His set is so awesome. My set is so pathetic in comparison. Anyway, he runs Quad House, which is a build and repair service. So when people say to me, hey, can you build my quad for me? I say, contact him, because that's just not, I like to make videos. He builds. He is an Armatan, I believe he's, unless that's changed, he's an Armatan service technician as well, so you know he's good. If you need any build or repair done, reach out to him. Random FPV, facebook.com/randomfpv. Thank you for moderating the chat for me, Random. He also does a bunch of other live streams. He makes YouTube videos. I mean, he does a lot. 507, you did see me. I was very briefly on the local Knoxville news. They came out and did a little segment about a drone racing club or a flight field here. So yeah, I was very briefly on the news. Spud Nick wants to know, would raising the cutoff frequency for Gyro 2 cause hot motors? Yes, absolutely, Spud Nick. Anytime you raise the low pass cutoff, you are causing less filtering to happen, and therefore you can get hot motors. Raising the cutoff of a low pass makes less filtering and hotter motors. Lowering the filtering, lowering the cutoff, in other words, lower numbers, going from 150 to 140, 130, 120, that is more filtering. That causes cooler motors but worse flight handling. 507 is posting the link to the news article. Yeah.
Take a look at this video. This drone is whizzing through an obstacle course near Melton Hill Park. You can hear just how fast it was going. Oh my goodness. Gabrielle Hayes, let's go to you. It's kind of hard to, you kind of get a little dizzy just watching that.
I felt the exact same way, but get this, Lewis. The kid behind this video is 16 years old. His family says he's #1 in the country, and today I met him and his dad.
Just one street over from Melton Hill Park sits this. A car track, a runway, and a drone racing course. And racer Kevin Turner says it's pretty special.
This is one of the first clubs, I think, in the nation that has tried to diversify.
This guy's Evan Turner's dad, in case you didn't know.
Which is an Academy of Model Aeronautics club.
One place where people can come and enjoy a lot of different facets of the hobby.
But the drone track is pretty new, and it brings out some really dedicated racers.
Plus it gets them outside too.
Like Turner's son Evan. He started racing 3 years ago. And those who know him say he's really, really good.
This past year he did made it to nationals again and got first. So he's first in the nation this year.
First in the nation and fast.
So fun to do if you have a bug for this.
But Evan's story isn't confined to the United States. He's raced against kids from all over the world.
Just proud. I mean, I think all of us knew he could do that, but.
And once he
Decode, his dad is Kevin. Kevin Turner is Evan Turner's dad.
Now I'm race, then I can race against him. So.
It's the kind of hobby that brings the two together. And in every race, there's a lesson.
I do think it's a great way to really learn without realizing they're learning.
Turner says it
makes
look
at that guy.
Experience worth it. The people, the passion, and the racing.
Any hobby where you can have kids that are 8 years old competing against men that are 60 years old, all together on an equal playing field is a lot of fun.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I have not. People are asking if I announced the winner of the Charger giveaway. I have not done that drawing yet. I will do that today. Anyway, there we go. I was on the news very briefly. Let's get some super chats out of the way. I got some super chats coming in. Malus Vex, thanks for $2 Australian. Malus Vex has a clip up chasing kangaroos. Check it out. Cheers. I don't know if I want to put that on the live stream. People get super annoyed when you fly near animals. Go check out Malus Vex. Pros 71 full, thanks for $5. Copas 2 Rotor Riot had a small crash, blew the ESC. You should definitely Pros E71. If you crash and blow the ESC, it is worth asking Holy Bro to see if they feel like you deserve a replacement. Sometimes, I'm not going to say all I know is sometimes people are like, yeah, I just crashed, and like my first flight out, I blew the ESC, and Holy Bro is like, yeah, okay, we'll send you a new one. It's worth asking. I'm not saying they're going to do it, but if you feel like the blown ESC was probably like shouldn't have blown, you may get a replacement. You definitely should be running a cap anytime you're running 6S. A lot of people don't run caps and get away with it, but if you're running 6S and you're not running a cap and you blow an ESC, then the first thing I'm going to say is you should have been running a cap. No cap came with it. Did it not have it didn't have a cap installed, though. I mean, that's a ready to fly. So, and they market it as being for 6S. So, yeah, there you go. Okay. Hector Wiza. I think Wiza. Thank you for 10 Canadian dollars. Using Mamba F405, which comes with a 4-in-1 DC, do I need to run VBAT directly to the battery leads? It works without because of the ribbon cable. Yeah, no, the ribbon cable connects the ESC and the flight controller together, and that's where it gets power from. You do not need an alternate source of power, Hector. Thank you for $10. That was an easy one. Cassiano Aquino, thanks for €5. Going to start with simulators. What radio should I get? The X9D, QX7, or X-Lite? Cassiano, I got to tell you, a lot of people like the X-Lite because it's like a game controller. Personally, I didn't like the ergonomics, but many, many people like it. And especially as someone who isn't already used to the ergonomics of a traditional controller, I think you might like the X-Lite very much. The QX7 at a price of about $100, $110 is some of the best value in the market today. I think the X9D Lite, the X9 Lite is also one you should be looking at. That's the new access protocol radio. And if you're new to the hobby, then the sort of political controversy about the access protocol doesn't really affect you because you don't have any existing receivers. You don't really have an investment. The X9 Lite comes in at about $70 to $90, and I think it's a very good radio in that price range. So that's what I'll be looking at, Cassiano. Juiced Shorlemer wants to know, what parts would I change on my JB budget build in this day and age, and what capacitor do I need? The thing about the JB budget build, I mean, if I were to redo it today, I probably would pick a different flight controller and ESC just because, you know, I'd want to do a different tutorial. I still think the Kakute F7 and the Atlatl or the Teco ESC are very good. The Arrow is still a great camera, and I don't think you could do better for $20. If you want a slightly better budget camera, take a look at the Caddx Ratel. It's about $35, so it's significantly more expensive than the Arrow. I mean, there's nothing out there for $20 that does as good a job as the Arrow, in my opinion. Maybe the Caddx. The Caddx, there's a $20 Caddx that isn't bad, but I would probably still stick with the Arrow. And then the motors, I never did love the DYS Samguk motors, but I picked them because of we were trying to hit a certain budget. Today, the 3B Hobby trainer motors are pretty good. I should really update the build and do another one, you know. Anyway. Yeah, Random, the bots are very active lately, so thank you for staying on top of that. Bad Habit RC, thanks for $5, wants to know why the newbie drone flies for 4 minutes and the UR65 flies for 1 minute. The newbie drone is using a lot less power. Maybe it's lighter, maybe it's got less power, but that's the bottom line. The brushed motors on the newbie drone are they're probably weaker and drawing less power, and so you get longer flight time. STNGMS in the Discord asks, how do I power my Frsky R9 module? STNGMS, you can power the Frsky R9 module directly from the battery on the radio. The external XT30 needs a 2S only, not a 3S. The external XT30, though, can be used to provide supplemental power if you don't want to suck your radio battery dry quite as quickly. Let's see here. What's a good 5-inch quad under $350? Asks I am crazy 69. What's a good 5-inch quad under $350? Diatone GTR 548 HDLRC Mephisto, HDLRC Win 5, Holy Bro Copus 2SE, Emax Tiny, Emax Hawk. I'm crazy. I think that HDLRC electronics are really hit or miss. Sometimes HDLRC does very good designs. You look at the HDLRC product and go, like, HDLRC was one of the first vendors to put a VTX straight onto a flight controller and have an all-in-one. So, like, you go, oh, good job, HDLRC. They really know how to hit a certain market segment, but the electronics are really hit or miss in terms of their quality. Like, you'll buy it, and some people buy HDLRC and they're like, no, I've had it forever and I love it. But sometimes they just die. So I don't go out of my way to recommend HDLRC. I feel like the Diatone GTR 548 really stands out on your list. I am crazy. I've always liked Diatone's 5-inch ready to flies. I've always liked them. They're really solid. They were, frankly, Diatone was one of the first to do a 5-inch ready to fly that really impressed me. I can't get this freaking image to come up any bigger. I'm trying to get an image for you guys to see here. Oh, that's just the frame. So I haven't looked into that one specifically to know if there's some issue with it, but in general, I think the Diatone 5 inches are pretty good. The Emax Hawk is also very good. Emax Hawk has an amazing tune from the factory and just flies great. So of those, I would probably, and the Holy Bro Copus 2 is also very good, one of my favorite ready to flies, but the Holy Bro Copus 2, the frame is a little bit less durable because they use this not foam core carbon. So I think of those, the Hawk 5 is the one that I know is really good. The Diatone is a little more full featured, supports things like smart audio, whereas the Hawk 5 doesn't. I might lean toward the Diatone there. Bot Grinder in the chat. Hello, Bot Grinder. How you doing, buddy? Vincent Gonzalez, if you got a Bandolero and aren't happy with it, reach out to Rotor Riot support and tell them what your issue is and give them a chance to take care of you. That's all I would say. Let's see here. Should you power the R9 module with the internal battery, or do you need an external battery? No, I use the internal battery. I don't like having an external battery. If you got the R9 set at like 2 watts, it's going to suck the battery down pretty fast. But for the typical kind of FPV flying that most of us are doing, set the R9 to like 100 milliwatts or 250 milliwatts. You'll get so much range. And it'll suck your battery down a little faster, but that's not the end of the world. Just charge your battery when you get home. Flavio Gamiero wants to know, how can the HDO have a higher refresh rate than other goggles? Aren't all goggles displaying the same refresh rate? That was the question. That was the other question. Thank you, Flavio. I knew there was one more thing about Ntsc and Pal that I wanted to talk about, and that was it. So the question has to do with the refresh rate of the goggles. And what we're talking about here is the refresh rate of the screen, the panel itself. And the thing is, having a faster refresh rate doesn't so much matter, because at the end of the day, the Ntsc and Pal feed themselves are limited to 30 or 25 frames per second. So if the goggle has a faster refresh rate, I think some of the screens have up to a 60 hertz refresh rate. I'm not sure. I don't know those specs off the top of my head. Faster than about 60 hertz, there's just not any point to it because the signal itself doesn't have a faster refresh rate. Keith Slater wants to know if there is any kind of repeater station that exists for FPV that can be used to race freestyle through long-distance rocks and concrete. Keith, what you're going to need to do, what you should probably do, Keith, is get a directional high-gain antenna. If you've got a long canyon you want to fly down, get like a 10-turn helical or something, and it's going to have this really narrow beam pattern that'll shoot down the canyon. You're going to want to use diversity. You're going to want an Omni for when you're flying near yourself, but that's what you're going to want to do. A repeater system, the problem is it's going to introduce latency. For cruising in a canyon, maybe that's okay. I do know people who've come up with systems like, there was a guy once who put a 1.3 gig system on a Phantom, and he put a 5 gig repeater, and then he put the Phantom up in the air, so the 1.3 gig receiver was, 400 feet in the air. And then he flew his wing all over the place just forever. In order to set up a repeater like that, what you do is you take the ground station and you take the video out of the ground station and you put it to the video in of a video transmitter. And you can do that. But it does add latency and it adds some complexity. Tony Briz wants to know if Random FPV and Vec can bring back FPV Life. Thank you for $5, Tony Briz. FPV Life was amazing. I'm a big fan of Vec and Random. I don't want to stir up drama, but I thought they had a falling out. You'd have to ask Random and Vec about that before you asked me. FPV Life was amazing. Is Vec even interested in bringing back FPV Life? Vec's a busy guy. I thought he was dealing with some personal stuff. Flying Buzzard says, help, help, help. Okay, take it easy, Flying Buzzard. Quad will not arm and has 0 flags. Good job. I got this one random. Good job looking for flags. So if your quad won't arm, the first thing you do is you go into the OSD tab and you make sure that the warnings OSD element is turned on. And then when you try to arm, you will get a status flag in the OSD telling you why it won't arm. Thank you, Betaflight. In Betaflight 4.0, the warnings element is on by default. Thank you. Now I can stop telling, eventually I'll be able to stop telling people to turn it on. It'll just be there. But you're saying it's not arming and it has 0 flags. So here's the next thing. If the quad is refusing to arm and it is not showing any flags, it means that the quad doesn't think you're telling it to arm. You see? Because if you were telling it to arm and it had no flags, then it would arm. So the first thing I would check is go to the Modes tab in Betaflight and see if, like, when you flip the switch, the arm switch, is the channel moving into the armed position. Okay? We're just going to work backwards. What would you recommend for 3-inch freestyle pre-builds, sub $300? Thank you, Tyler Gates, for giving me the opportunity to plug my website. And we're almost to the first hour, and I do occasionally put a little commercial in here for myself. Now I'm tempted to do an announcer voice, but I won't. I'll spare you. This is my website, fpvknowitall.com, and on this website we have the ultimate FPV shopping list, which is where I put all my parts recommendations. If you're looking for what video transmitter, what anything does Joshua recommend, here's where it is. And on this, there is the best ready-to-fly drones, including plug and fly, bind and fly, and what I want to show you here in answer to your question is the Diatone GT R349 is stinking good. I'm so glad I finally got the chance to fly this thing because, well, number one, I just like Diatone as a company. I think they make good products. And I tested a couple of Diatone quads in a row that I didn't like, and I felt really bad about it. I mean, I was honest about it, but I still felt bad. And everybody said the Diatone GT R349 is so good, you got to try it. And I was like, okay. And I did. And they were right. It's so stinking good. This is one of the best 3-inch racers. Definitely. If you're interested in a 3-inch racer, it screams. It can do freestyle too, although it doesn't carry a high-def camera. So if you're looking for high-def recording, this isn't the one for you. There is an HD version, though. I take that back. There's an HD version. 3-inch HD freestyle. Here you go. This is it. This is the one. Because if you're flying freestyle, you probably want HD. $219, got an HD recording on it, stinking good. I'll paste that in the chat for you if you want. There it is. That and oh, damn it! I am the moderator. I can post a long comment if I want to. It's Biddly this. It's freaking good. And as a plug for myself, if you ever want to use that, it does mean a lot. All of these links are affiliate links, so when you click those links, I get a little commission. Well, when you make a purchase, I get a little commission. It's one of the ways you can support me is to use those links. Okay, answer a question, throw in a commercial. It's all good. Hey, Discord, how's it going over there in the Discord? Here's the problem with the Discord. Like, people ask questions, and it takes me a minute to get to them. And then by the time I get to them, the helpful people in the Discord have already practically answered the question, and I'm like, oh, they got it. Let's see here. Should I invest? Effing Noob wants to know. Should I invest in 4S starting out or skip to 6S? Effing Noob, I still think that 4S is the place to be for a beginner. I think the advantages of 6S are... They're there, but they're small, and I think a beginner is going to be less likely to notice them. The flip side is that 6S batteries are still a bit more expensive, and so when you smash a battery or just you'll have fewer packs to fly. And 6S is still just a little harder to tune and a little more likely to blow an ESC. So I still think that beginners, I mean, if you're like, nah, screw it, I'm going for it. That's not a bad decision. You will get a little bit, but I think you're going to be just a little more likely to blow an ESC, and you're going to spend a little more on batteries. So I still, I'm like, 49.51 to 4S. But yeah, okay. Mark FPV wants to know, would there be an issue running 5-inch props on a 7-inch frame? No, Mark, there would not be an issue. Eventually, you will run into a place where the props just aren't making enough thrust for the weight of the frame. One thing that not a lot of people, I think Umagod was the first one to do this, was to run, remember the butter quad? The butter quad that Rotor Riot made? I think that was Tommy Umagod's invention. It was 5-inch props on a 6-inch frame. And what you get is you get some of the stability of the 6-inch frame, but with the responsiveness of the 5-inch props. And it's a really interesting combination. You actually can see this today. The Armatan Marmot, the 5-inch version of the Marmot, is actually more like a 5.5 inch. It's just a little bit bigger frame with a little bit smaller props. So running 5-inch props on a 7-inch frame, I think might not be ideal, but you could do it. Tony Dean, I don't know where your question went, but I do see your comment. You are here. B-Wing77 says, I regret beginning with 4S a year ago. Now I sit with 14 4S packs and can't afford to replace them. Yeah, that's the flip side, B-Wing. I mean, some people out there are going to start with 4S, and 6 months from now, you're going to be so good. Just because some people start flying, especially young people, especially kids. Us old guys take a little bit longer to come up to speed. You start flying, you kick ass, and 6 months from now, you're doing Matty flips, and you're just a great pilot, and you're ready for 6S. And you're like, well, shoot, I have 15 4S packs, and I can't afford to replace them. If you're worried about that, you could go 6S. You definitely could. That's something to think about. Is it still, Ian F says, is it still safe to say that Betaflight 4.x doesn't work with 3-inch and smaller quads? Yeah, the defaults on Betaflight 4.x are a little bit less universal for a lot of people. Many people are using 4.x on smaller quads with no problem. I do want to point out the Betaflight community presets page. If you're having trouble with Betaflight 4.0, check out this page. I'll paste it into the chat. Betaflight community presets here, and one of the things there are some suggested presets for smaller quads that may help you out a little bit. But like with the Betaflight 3.5 presets, they mostly would fly on most anything, whereas 4XX is a little more picky. Let's see here. Does motor size matter when putting it on different frames? Interesting question. Interesting question. Does motor size matter? Well, I mean, a given frame, the thing is when you go to a given frame size, you tend to be targeting a certain weight, right? The frame itself is going to get heavier. That especially matters with micros. Micros, the difference between, if you're down in a micro size, the difference between a 25 gram and a 40 gram quad is double the weight. So if you've got a set of motors and props designed for a 25-gram quad, they simply won't fly a 45-gram quad. Whereas if we look at 5-inch quads, you add 20 grams to a 5-inch quad and it doesn't even notice. So especially at the smaller quads, you really have to be very precise with the motors and props and battery that you choose and frame, because the weight of the quad it's so sensitive. As you get into larger quads, it doesn't matter as much. And once you're into the 4-inch, 5-inch size, it doesn't matter so much. But if you try to put let's say you try to put 1806, or I've even seen some people with 1407 motors trying to run 4-inch tri-blades, and the motors are just getting banged up and breaking because the props are too heavy or the quad is too heavy. So there is a sort of optimal range of motor size for a given prop size and frame size. Yeah. Tyler Gates wants to know if I would recommend 5-inch or 3-inch for freestyle. Well, 5-inch. I mean, 3-inch freestyle is a thing, but 5-inch is really the sweet spot for speed, performance, portability, etc. Ken Ford wants to know, thank you for $5, Ken Ford. Can you bind the new version of the Tiny Hawk with the original X-Lite, or does access get in the way? Ken Ford, the new Tiny Hawk is D8 mode, just like the old one. The original X-Lite transmitter supports D8 and doesn't support access, so I think you're fine there, Ken. Only the new X-Lite Pro would have a problem, and it would. As of today, the X-Lite Pro cannot bind to D8 and would not be able to bind to the Tiny Hawk. But the original X-Lite, you're fine. Calvin Erickson, thank you for $5 in the super chat. Is the FXT 5 gigahertz Triversity receiver worth building a ground station since Clearview is gone? Funny that you mentioned that. Clearview isn't actually gone. I don't know about the FXT Triversity receiver. That's a very interesting idea. And actually, a lot of people have said, well, if diversity is good, what about Triversity? And there have been a few ground stations that have done that. I'm thinking of the Hobby King Overlord, was a 6-channel diversity receiver. I don't know if that's still made. Clearview, that's a new website, yay. But also Clearview has a new ground station receiver called the Racer that they are releasing. They've actually sent me one. I just got it in the mail yesterday. This is the new Clearview 5 gig Racer, and it is their attempt to, well, let's just be honest, their attempt to get back. Rapid Fire came out, and a lot of people who were thinking about buying Clearview instead bought Rapid Fire. But this is the Clearview new product. I'm going to be testing it, very interested, but they're saying it is basically their return to form. So very excited to see that, and very pleased to tell you guys that it's out there. I can't speak for the FXT Triversity ground station. The thing is, building a ground station, building a diversity module is not as simple as maybe doing it right. Just because you take and you have 8 different receivers and you're trying to do diversity doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get perfect reception. So it's a little tricky. Maybe it's good. All Day Air is sharing a long-distance flight with R9 in the Discord. Let's take a peek at this. What do you got, All Day Air? This is All Day Air. He's one of my patrons over in the Discord. Let's take a look at... Oh, yeah. Now, this is a perfect place to try to fly long distance as a ski run because it's long and straight and no obstacles, and you can just do a little trench run here. Yep. Really, this would be perfect for a wing, although it looks to me like you're flying a quad. And I'm wondering right now whether you're flying away from yourself or towards yourself. I'm going to guess you're at the bottom and you're flying away from or towards yourself. Here's one of the tricks for doing long range, and I'm not a long range guy, but here's a trick for doing long range. Fly away from yourself slowly and carefully. And as you fly away from yourself, do little 360s to check as you turn the quad whether you're going to lose signal. And after you have slowly and carefully flown away from yourself, then when you come back, just bomb it. And you'll be confident that you're not going to lose signal or anything. Little trick. If you're flying away from yourself, then be cautious. Oh yeah, here we go. was a good run. How long was that run, All Day Air? How long was that run? How far? Does he say? Yeah. Anyway. My record, 0FPV says my record is 2.5 kilometers with the R9 at 25 milliwatts. I think you can go a lot further than that. 0FPV puts record in quotes. I mean, I've done almost 2 kilometers with an RxSR, Frsky RxSR on 2.4 gigahertz. So I think a 900 megahertz system at 25 milliwatts should be able to go a lot further. Let's see here. Enzo Pedrera wants to know, on the JBF4, can I hook my ESC telemetry to the T-pad? No. Enzo, you can't do that. There's a couple reasons why you can't do that. One is ESC telemetry requires a receiver, an RX pad. The T-pad on the JBF4 is a TX, so you can't run ESC telemetry on a TX pad at all. And the other thing, Enzo, is that the T-pad on the JBF4 has an inverter on it for smart port, and ESC telemetry won't work with an inverter. So you will not be able to do what you're asking. Tony Dean wants to know a good setup for entry-level FPV on the Attitude V5s. Tony Dean, if you've got the Attitude V5s, they come with a patch antenna, so I would just use the stock antenna. They're not bad and they're free, so just use them. As far as a good startup for entry-level drone, I mean, if you're looking for a ready-to-fly, I was previously recommending the Diatone GT349. The Diatone 5-inch ready-to-flyer is good. The Hawk 5 by Emax is good. All of those are good. Slider 7Z33 wants to know about what microphone I recommend. Honestly, I feel like sticking an aftermarket microphone on a quad is such a hassle. It's almost not worth it. If you really want a microphone on your quad, buy a VTX that has one built in. That's my recommendation. I don't recommend an aftermarket one. It's just so clunky. Felix Scoots is trying to put together a JBF4 V2. Doesn't know which solder points to use. A Spectrum satellite. Felix, you can use the S-Bus pad. You need to, on the underside of the JBF4, there's a 3.3/5 volt solder bridge. You need to bridge that for 3 volts. Then you can use the S-Bus pad for your Spectrum satellite. I know it's not S-Bus, but you can use it. And the 3/5 pad will output 3.3 volts and ground. So that's how to do it. Felix Scoots, go to the Race Day Quads product page for the JBF4. There's a full user manual that I wrote for it that has full wiring instructions, and you can download that from the Race Day Quads product page for the JBF4. Noah Reinhardt points out that the R9 Access firmware is out. Yep, you can now update your R9 system to Access. And the number one thing I think you get there is over-the-air firmware updates. Yay! Cassiano Aquino says the X-Lite ergonomics interests me, but also the Access protocol. Yeah, so get the X-Lite Pro. Absolutely. If you like the X-Lite ergonomics and you're interested in Access protocol, X-Lite Pro is the one to get. You can update the firmware today to support the D16 protocol receivers, and I think you will be able to update them for D8 in the future, but not today. Is Clearview or RapidFire compatible with the Ishin EV200D? Paul Walker, I do know people who are running RapidFire in their EV200Ds. I can't guarantee you that it's like 100% fully compatible, but I do know people who are using it and getting good results. So, Craft King says, I have 2 motors spinning the wrong direction after putting in a new 4-in-1 ESC. You can resolder them, or you can use BL Heli to change the direction, Craft King, but not Betaflight. Martin Matt says, could a TX pad be remapped to soft serial RX? And on soft serial, inversion is no problem. Martin Matt, you're half right. You can remap a pin to soft serial. And in fact, you can remap a UART TX to soft serial and use it as RX. That will work. So if you've got UART 4 and you're using TX4 for smart audio, you could turn RX4 into soft serial and use that for telemetry. But the problem is that on the JBF4, there is a hardware inverter. and it's going to invert the signal, and so soft serial will not know what to do with that. That's the problem. Frank Barajas is the king of the like button. Frank Barajas wants everybody to hit the like button. I usually do not scrounge for likes. I'm just happy you're here. Frank Barajas, thanks for $5. He wants you to... Over 500 people watching and less than 100 likes. What's up with that? I don't know. Hit that like button, guys. Hit that notification bell. Do you feel like you're watching a YouTube video now? Does it matter? Does it really matter? I don't know. Dsync 0, thank you for $5 Canadian. I have a Wizard TS130 on the way. I want to prop it down for runtime. Comes with a Dalprop Cyclone 3056. Any suggestions? I don't know 3-inch props off the top of my head, to be honest with you. 3056. It's a 5.6 pitch, so I would look for any 3-inch prop that is less than 5.6. You could also go down to a bi-blade. Going from a tri-blade to a bi-blade will usually give longer flight time. That's what I would do, Desync. Toolmaker Dave, thank you for $5. I have a 7-inch T-Motor T55, 55 amp Pro. When it comes down, it shows, there's a parts list here. When it comes down, it shows like 12,000 milliamp hours used. What do I adjust in Betaflight 403? Toolmaker Dave, the first thing you need to do is make sure that current sensing is set up correctly. The T-Motor 55 amp, it outputs ESC telemetry, but it does not output current data in ESC telemetry. You need to have analog current sensing set up. So that's the first thing I would do, is just make sure you've wired up the analog current sense wire from the flight controller to the Kakute F7. But hang on. Let's look at the manual for the Kakute F7 and make sure that this will actually work. Kutam Vigneswaran. I did my best, dude. Sorry. What's the best GPS you recommend for a Kakute F7? I like the Race Day Quads Micro GPS, but that's just a BenTN BN180, I think. It doesn't have a compass, though. If you're running iNav or anything like that, you want a GPS with a compass built in. But does the Kakute F7 have the I2C pads for it? Yes, it does. So, Kutam, I would get a GPS with a compass built in and use it, especially if you're using iNav. If you're using Betaflight, then I don't think it matters. So let's look at the pinout on this, because what I want to see is, we have the question about current sensing. Does this have an analog current sense input? So we can see here is R7 in the 4-in-1 plug. That's for ESC telemetry. I don't see a current sense input. So that's your problem. So here's what you're going to need to do. Who am I talking to here? What was the guy's name? I missed it. Dang it. Hang on. I got to moderate real quick. Where's the guy's name? I lost him. Oh, he's in the super chat. Yeah. Toolmaker Dave. Toolmaker Dave, here's what you need to do, dude. You need to remap the RSSI pad to current sense. You can do that. And then you're going to connect the analog current sense output of the F55 to this RSSI pad here. Okay? So, hang on. Where's I got a flight controller I can show you this on. Hang on one second. Oh, here we go. Seal Racing F7, F4. That'll probably work. Hang on. I want to make sure you get this right, Toolmaker Dave. There we go. So, if I type resource here, here we go. Resource ADC RSSI and resource ADC cur. Okay? Dave, what you're going to do is you're going to say resource ADC RSSI none, and then resource ADC cur, and put that on whatever pin RSSI was on. So on this flight controller, which is not a Kakute F7, so don't just mimic me, RSSI is on CO3. You would type resource ADC RSSI none, resource ADC cur CO3. And what that's going to do is that's going to turn this RSSI pad into a current sense pad. I don't think this flight controller has current sense other than that. And that's how you're going to get current sense out of your F-55. Then you're going to do this. You're going to do this technique and calibrate your current sensor. Look at that guy. Look how young and fresh he looks 2 years ago. Oh my goodness. Then you're going to do this and you're going to calibrate. That's Toolmaker Dave. Thank you for your $5 donation. That is the answer to your question. If you have any trouble with that, Dave, contact me privately. I'll help you out. Sarunas gives 20 Norwegian kroner. Thank you. How to fix a shaking drone, 7-inch stock Betaflight settings. That is impossible to die. There's 70 different things you could do to try to fix that. The first thing I would do, though, is make sure that your props are balanced and your motors are not having a problem. The second thing I would probably do is change the BL Heli 32 motor PWM frequency. Change that between 24 and 48 kilohertz. Just change it in small increments and try and find one that minimizes the shaking. It's probably not a tune. It's probably just an overall vibration issue. It's very, very tricky to tune, to be honest with you. And by the way, can I say, as we go, people are like, wow, 7-inch props fly so good. Why do we fly? They're so much better than 5-inch. One of the things we got when we went down to smaller props, because remember, we all used to fly 9-inch, 10-inch props on great big quadcopters, and then mini quads became a thing. One of the things you get with smaller props is easier vibration problems. You get a lot less jello and a lot less vibration. And as we go back up to 6 and 7-inch props and discover how like long flight times, the flip side is we have a lot more struggle with vibrations. Okay. Let's see. Avis wants to know if I will, in the Discord, if I will talk about TBS Pro 32 HV Crossfire and how to use it. Well, let's see about that. Oh no, I don't. Get rid of that. So let's see. Let's just pull up a picture of the TBS Pro 32. Oh my goodness. I can't type today. Hold on. Let's just pull up a picture of the Pro 32 HV. Hello? What? Not news. Oh my god, I've almost found this product. That's what I want. That's what I want. Yay! It took me like 3 minutes to find this freaking picture. So, this guy, what's this guy got? Let's see. What's the pinout on this? Because that's what I'm trying to figure out. So this one only has a single set of Crossfire inputs. Some of the other ones have 2. So I guess what you would do is you would connect it directly to the Crossfire receiver, having the Crossfire receiver outputting Crossfire, and then that gets information into the OSD and lets you do remote changes. But if you have a Betaflight flight controller, oh, I see. Yeah, I understand now. So let's check the TBS Unified Nano Diversity. Yeah, I'm caught up now. So check the pinout on the. This is the receiver. Notice that the Unified Nano has 1, 2, 3, 4 outputs. So you can have Crossfire on 1 and 2 going to your flight controller, and Crossfire on 3 and 4 going to your video transmitter. And when you do that, that is instead of smart audio, and it lets the Crossfire system control the band and channel. Is that what you're looking for? Is that what you're looking for, dude? I hope it. Is that what, I wonder if that's what Avis was looking for. Well, let me know in the Discord. Let's see here. Some people are asking how to join the Discord. If you want to join the Discord, the way to do it is to become a patron down below. There's a link to my Patreon if you want to support me. I don't know if you've heard this, but this is my full-time job. That's right. I'm a full-time YouTuber. Take that, PewDiePie. If only I could be as popular as PewDiePie. That dude, he's got almost 100 million subs. He may have actually crossed 100 million. And he's given up. He stopped. He just shits out meme reviews. And he gets 6 million views per video. We're not even trying. Oh, if only I could be that jaded. If only I could do that little work and pay that and make that much money. Maybe someday. In the meantime, I have to beg you for your support and beg you to join my Patreon down below. And if you do, one of the things you get is you get to join my Discord server. Oh my goodness. PewDiePie? Craft King, you've never heard of PewDiePie? Just, you're better off. No, I like PewDiePie. I liked him better when he cared about his content, though. I think he kind of gave up. He got into trouble. He started to make it mainstream. He had a Disney contract. He had a television show on YouTube. And then he said the N-word on his stream. And he did this other thing that people accused him of being a Nazi white supremacist. I'm not saying whether... Sorry, I'm fiddling with a GoPro in my hand. Well, I don't know. It's beeping. Sorry. So very unprofessional. And Disney dropped him, and he kind of, I think he started doing meme reviews, basically, and just shitting out just bad content, barely trying. He was like, fine. And he kind of, I think it was more interesting, but it doesn't excuse, you can't say the N-word on a stream. I'm sorry. I can't. PewDiePie can't. Someone out there can, but it's not me. Anyway. Let's see here. What do we got here? Thank you, Frank Barajas. Five more bucks in the super chat. High fives. Thank you, Itchy Robot, for $5 as well. Keith Sloiter says, aren't we at the place and time where we can jack the output of the VTX to more than 1 watt, or would we be violating FCC stuff? Keith, the FCC considers 1 watt to be the maximum for analog video. It's very interesting. There's a limitation. So in the United States, the regulation that we fly under is called Part 97. That's the ham radio regulation, and we are technically ham radio operators. Get your ham license, everybody. And Part 97 has a limitation of 1 watt on what's called telecommand of a radio-controlled craft. So, like your Tyrannus would be limited to 1 watt if it were operating under Part 97. And actually, your Tyrannus operates under Part 15, which is different because it's a digital spread spectrum. But telecommand is limited to 1 watt. Now, here's the interesting thing. Nobody thought that video transmitters counted as telecommand because it's not controlling the craft. It's just sending back the video. But when the FCC fined GetFPV, in the letter that they wrote about what GetFPV did wrong, they indicated that they considered that one of the things they did wrong is they sold video transmitters over 1 watt, which indicates that they consider video transmitters to be telecommand. And that is why in the United States, you will not find very many, if any, video transmitters over 1 watt, because that's why the FCC has that limitation. I reached out to, like, the new TBS Unify puts out at least 1 watt. And it's sold in the U.S. And I said, well, how is that? I reached out to ReadyMade RC and I said, hey, how are you guys doing this? And they said, well, what we do is we sell the VTX on a separate storefront. Because you can sell a VTX over 1 watt. You just can't use it for telecommand of a remote craft. So by selling the VTXs in a separate website from the FPV stuff, hey, it's just a wireless video transmitter now. It's not being used for telecommand. I was like, okay. So that's why you don't see very many VTXs over 1 watt in the United States, but sometimes you do. Take dead aim. Good luck with that, buddy. There is no ham license. It's a technician license. We all know what we mean by ham license. Please. It's just of all the things to be mad about. Let's not pick that one. Miguel Espinel, Tattoo Funfly or CNHL White Line? Tattoo Funfly, I would pick the CNHL. That's all I'll say about that. PCM26 is a patron. How does he get on Discord? PCM26, go to the hashtag patrons welcome channel on my Discord, and that will show you how to link your Discord and your Patreon. Axel FPV wants to know about Jello. Don't change filter settings to get rid of Jello, Axel. Put an ND filter on your camera. That's how to fix Jello. Thank you, RC Aviation, for 10 pounds. Just to thank you for the help you've provided over the years. Thank you very much. STNGMS. Look, guys. Come on, guys. STNGMS. I think a lot of new patrons struggle with adding the Discord app to the Patreon profile settings. Could you give them a hint? Yes, I did. Look, right here. Patrons welcome. Boom. Right here. This is the exact step right here. This is how to do it. That's the tip right there. This is how to do it. It's right here. Patrons-welcome. So it's on Discord servers, you'll see welcome channels, which you're intended to click on those channels when you first join and check them out. And they have tips about the server. But that's where you need to be, patrons-welcome. I wish that Discord would let you link an invite to a channel so that when you use the invite, you get automatically redirected to the channel. They don't let you do that. So anyway, it's a very common question. You are correct, but the tip is there. Okay, moving on. Any good ND options for a session 4? Yeah. So the best ND option is from Polar Pro. These are the problem is that you need. Where's the ND filter? No, I don't want a travel case. Maybe they're on Amazon. You need a 3D printed holder. Surely they have. Really? Is it not for a session? Okay, my bad. I thought Polar Pro made filters for this session. I guess I'm wrong about that. Here's the race day quads. These are tempered glass. Are these tempered glass or are these film? I think they're film. No. So these are film ND filters. They're not very good. They're very hard to get on without bubbles, and they have poor optical quality. Let's see what else we got. We had tempered glass. No. There's I know TBS makes one. Yeah. So Ethics makes a stick-on tempered glass. That's probably the best one. Yeah, here's glass ND filter, camera butter. This is probably the one that I would recommend. It's the easiest to put on, and it works with any of your existing 3D printed cases. Gorilla FPV says get some 15% tint from a car window place. The problem with that is it's very difficult to get it on without bubbles. But if you can get it on without bubbles, it's okay. TBS Jello Guard. That's the other one. Thank you, 507RC. Thank you. Yep. Camera butter. That's where, yeah, those are okay. If Mr. Steele uses it, it's the best. Let's see. Johan Verrept says, I find the whole Access/ACCST thing confusing. As far as I tell, I can't buy Access receivers. Yeah, no, you're right. Reflashing Frsky receivers is a pain. Johan, reflashing the Frsky receivers is okay as long as they're not installed in a quad yet. So if you have you can, first of all, you can update R9 to Access today. You can update RXSR to Access today. If you need to do that and they're already in the quad, it is going to be a pain in the butt if they're direct soldered. The easiest way to do it is to use pass-through, to use serial pass-through. And if you can get that working, it's not too bad. You can make Discord channel invites by right-clicking the channel. Is that right? Oh, no, you're right. You can link to the channel. No, what you can't do, I'm sorry, you're right. What you can't do is automatically assign roles based on an invite. That's what I wish you could do. But you can't do that. Let's see here. Why are those filters so good, asks DSCB. They're not. I mean, any of the really good filters are glass, and they're like the optical quality glass. The tempered glass filters are okay. What makes them good is that they just stick on easily and are easy to apply. And the thing is, glass filters, you'll pay $20 for a good like ND8 glass filter, and then you'll have to come up with some weird 3D printed rig to hold it onto your GoPro, and then you'll crash and you'll crack it and you'll be spent $20. So all of these filters, the film filter, the tempered glass filter, they're not good, but they are inexpensive and easy to use, and that's good enough for a lot of people. ABC Aircraft wants to know R9M or Crossfire. If you have the money to spend, Crossfire I think is a better user experience and a more reliable link. However, many people use R9 and have good results with it. What you're looking for is basically a more reliable replacement for your 2.4 gig system, R9 is essentially the same price as a 2.4 gig receiver and will probably give you better range. You're just going to have a little bit more of a hassle with the bigger antennas. If you're a pro, then probably you're going to get Crossfire, and that's that. What transmitters work with the TBS Crossfire Lite module? Hank Barron, if you're trying to do TBS Crossfire today, I think the X9D is a good place to be. It doesn't require any modification, and the module just drops right in. The problem is that Frsky does not want Crossfire to exist, basically. And so, like, Frsky, the firmware that Frsky is providing for, like, the new radios doesn't have the Crossfire Lua script in it. They've taken it out. So Frsky is going to make it more and more difficult as time goes on for you to use Crossfire. But as of today, the X9D is a solid choice for Crossfire. Doesn't require any modification like the QX7 does. The jumper transmitters also work with Crossfire, and they are an okay choice. Some of the jumpers, I think, need a little better quality control. But overall, that's another one that you would want to look at. Yes, Matt Wheat, you do have to do a mod to the QX7 in order to get Crossfire working. Let's see. Mike Kiersia, thank you for $5 in the super chat. I slammed into a wooden light pole and recovered, but now my Crossfire LQ is all over the place. Mike, I mean, you make my job so easy, Mike, because you slammed into a light pole. You broke something, dude. If it was just randomly happening out of nowhere, then I'd be like, oh, I don't know. What could it be? You broke something. Probably the receiver, right? Because you didn't smash your transmitter into a light pole. So I would check the antenna. Check that the antenna on your receiver is still attached fully. And swap the receiver if that doesn't fix it. Let's see here. Best camera settings for the Foxeer Monster Micro Pro. It asks Panda FPV in the Discord. I really like how the Foxeer Monster looks. I've always thought it has a really good image, but it's available in 16:9 only, and that's why I haven't used it more. I remember the Foxeer Monster having a really contrasty and saturated image. I typically try to get more dynamic range by turning the contrast down, but that doesn't work with every camera. Sometimes they just get washed out without getting more shadow detail. I don't have enough experience, Panda, with the Monster to tell you for sure how to fix it. Again, because it's 16:9 only, and I have to prefer to fly 4.3 cameras. Let's see here. What about the Caddx Dolphin? Ion FPV. The Caddx Dolphin is Caddx's new HD camera, and I'm happy to tell you they're sending me one. Caddx Dolphin. Ooh, hello, sexy. Very happy to see people breaking into this box camera, HD camera domain. Caddx has pretty good history of good image quality. So, same size as the Session 5. Time will tell. I will be looking at this, so very excited about that. Let's see here. Oh, Someone is speaking Russian. Let's translate this. Oh, yeah, okay. Every time I see people speaking in a foreign language, I real quick translate just to make sure they're not saying something inappropriate. Hide user on channel. Boom, got him. Me and Random are racing to see who can kill these spam bots faster. Barat FPV wants to know why Crossfire sometimes fail safes when there's more than 4 or 5 people in the air. Good question. Barat FPV, the issue has to do with bandwidth. And by bandwidth, I mean literally the frequency space that we've got. So if you look at 4 gigahertz, 2.4 gigahertz, it's 2.4 to 2.4835 gigahertz. And so that's 83.5 megahertz. Did I do the math there correctly? And what happens is that the transmitters are all hopping around. They use a technology called frequency hopping. And the idea there is that by hopping around in a random pattern, they avoid interfering with each other too much. Because everybody's hopping around. If occasionally we hop to the same frequency and interfere with each other, boom, later, a fraction of a microsecond later, maybe not quite that fast, we'll hop away and everything will be fine. But here's the thing. When you get too many devices at the same time, everybody is hopping around, and it's like the lottery, right? Odds are that you will never hop to the same frequency at once. But if you get enough people, eventually everybody's hopping to the same frequency all the time, and you get fail-safes. Make sense? With 2.4 gigahertz, there is so much bandwidth that you can literally have hundreds of planes in the air at the same time, and nobody fail-safes. And you've seen this at events like Flight Fest, where they do the aerial combat, where there's 100 planes in the air all trying to knock each other out of the air. In 900 megahertz, the bandwidth available is much less. Okay? It's much narrower band than 2.4 gigahertz. And so when you get even 4 or 5 pilots in the air, you can get interference and failsafe. And Crossfire, if you go to an event like International Open, where lots of people are running Crossfire, a big race, they'll tell all the pilots to turn telemetry off. They'll set them to 25 milliwatts, and that allows you to have more pilots in the air without failsafing. But for those of us who are used to 2.4 gigahertz, where you just don't have to think about it at all, ever, that's pretty unusual. It's not a defect in Crossfire per se. It's just a difference between 900 megahertz and 2.4 gigahertz. So, there we go. Dexter Johnson wants to thank you for $5, Dexter. What's a great external DVR for Fat Shark Goggle? I will tell you the one that I use. You're not going to like it, though. This is, in my opinion, the best external DVR you can get, but it's $100. It's $100. I'm going to paste the link here. I'm not going to take the time to make an affiliate link, so if you feel like clicking one of my Get FPV affiliate links before you buy that, I would appreciate it, but either way. This is a fantastic external DVR. Here's the things I like about it. It's got a screen, so it kind of doubles as a screen you can monitor. That's nice. It records, you can set it to record ambient audio or audio from the quad. So in my case, none of my quads have microphones. So I have it record ambient audio, and if I'm talking during a flight, it records my voice. That's very nice for me. And it always stays synced with the GoPro. So when you have breakup, it doesn't lose sync. So the video files that come out of it, if I want to do an overlay of my DVR and my GoPro, they just stay synced up. But it's $100. So here's another one that's worth looking at. This is the FXT DVR. This one is pretty good too. It's nice. It has Wi-Fi and you can use your phone to view the files. It's 60 FPS and it has good quality video. But one of the things I don't like about it is it requires an external battery. I told them, when they sent this to me for a review, I said, can you please make a version with an internal battery? This is so dumb. I don't want, like, you got this belt clip. What am I going to hang a freaking Fat Shark battery off it? Give me a break. They need to make a version of this with an internal battery, and then I would be more excited about it. That alone is one of the reasons I'm just not a big fan of this one. But that's just me. This is the one I like the best. Okay. Yeah, the Lumineer, Mad Sloper, the Lumineer doesn't freeze up when the video signal drops out. It stays synced. You know what? I might know what you're talking about, Mad Sloper. I have occasionally had that Lumineer just lock up on me. I'm sorry to hear that you had the same problem. I thought maybe I was just unlucky. Overall, though, I think it's a very, very good DVR. Charlie Essex just got here. Can you repeat the previous 99 minutes, please? Yeah, just go back and watch the DVR. Mindless FPV, thanks for 99 cents. Toby Sexton wants to know, how do you test a 4-in-1 ESC? Toby, the bottom line is that when the motor twitches and doesn't spin, then you replace the motor, and if that doesn't work, you replace the ESC. But if you want to test an ESC, Toby, here is a video I made how to test an ESC. Here's the thing, and Toby, I'll paste this video link in the chat for you. The thing is, if you run this test, it will confirm that your ESC is broken. But if your ESC passes this test, it might still be broken. This test is not 100% guarantee that your ESC is good. So it's very difficult to guarantee that your ESC is good. Tinderbox FPV, yeah, Tinderbox, the technician level ham license is sufficient for FPV. You do not need the extra class or anything like that. Just the technician level is fine. Let's see here. All right, well, that's it. We're out of questions, everybody. The very next question to come in is guaranteed to get answered. I'm scrolling back looking for questions. Are there other options for different bandwidths? Asks Keith Slider. We're stuck because of historic precedent. Well, here's the thing about RF, Keith. If two people transmit on the same frequency at the same time, they interfere. So radio frequencies, they are this think about all the ways that wireless technology improves your life. Satellites, right? Wi-Fi, cell phones. Wireless is an amazing technology that you can send information from here to there nearly instantaneously with pretty cheap. You don't have to run a wire. How difficult is it to run a wire? Wireless is amazing, but wireless stops working if it's not managed. Because all you have to do is transmit on a frequency and you just make everyone within range of you unable to hear. And so wireless is very heavily regulated. The frequencies that you are allowed to use are very heavily regulated. So for example, like if we look, let me just see if I can find, like, here is an FCC frequency chart in the United States. This is the frequency allocation in the United States, and you can see it starts all the way down at, what is this, megahertz? 6 megahertz? Kilohertz. Okay. It starts all the way down at 6 kilohertz, and everything from 6 kilohertz, it's all allocated to various things. And the reason for that is that if it were not allocated, then some jerk would, I'm going to do my video here, and just ruin it for everybody. Okay? So it's not just like, oh, historical precedent. Damn it, why can't we use any frequency we want? In order for everybody to benefit from this amazing, amazing technology, we all also have to agree to be limited by the regulation. And unfortunately, it sucks because there's these cellular frequencies that are so freaking useful. And who gets to use them? Anybody who can pay $1 billion in an auction. And then the cellular companies get them instead of us. We would be able to, and that they're so valuable that because life, the people who can afford, the businesses who can afford to buy them, get access to them, and not us. We have this very limited. It's actually really cool that the unlicensed bands like the ISM band exist, because it means, can you imagine what the 2.4 gigahertz band would go for if it were sold to the highest bidder? It would be worth a lot of money. And the fact that the government says, hey, you know what? Let's let the people have their fun and slice out this band just for us to play with for free is actually pretty cool. That's my opinion. Dexter Johnson, thank you for $5 in the super chat. If I bought a 3D printer from GetFPV, would I get technical support from them? Dexter, GetFPV is very, very good at after-sales support, but I suspect what you need, 3D printing, they're not going to like be your 3D printing hand-holding guru. I'm sure they'll give you support on getting the thing open, though. Yeah, Prusa. There's 2 3D printers that people recommend when people ask. And one is the Prusa, which the Prusa is, I'm not saying that right, I'm sure. The Prusa printers are expensive, but easy to use and kind of ready to go out of the box. The other one that people recommend are the Ender printers. The Ender printers are inexpensive, but require a lot of tweaking and modification to get working really well. That's my take on it. So you have to ask yourself whether you have more time than money. If you have more time than money, get an Ender. If you have more money than time, get a Prusa. That's the takeaway. And there's other good ones out there as well. Prusa, thank you. Prusa. There's other ones out there as well. But those are the 2 that consistently get mentioned. Effing Noob says the Ender 3 required very, especially if you want to, the problem is if you want to print PLA, that's easier. But if you want to print TPA or any flexible filament, it requires a little more tweaking to get it right. STNGMS in the Discord asks, is the gain in range between the different frequencies, like 1.2 to 5.4 gigahertz, similar to remote control? Yes. So STNGMS, you will get a lot more range going from 5 gigahertz video down to 2.4 gigahertz, down to 1.2 gigahertz. You get a lot more range and penetration. But you also get a lot more complication for what the biggest thing is that the antennas get a lot bigger. The big reason most of us are at 5 gigahertz is the antennas are so nice and small and compact. And the other thing is, with 5 gigahertz, you can get 8 pilots in the air if with a little bit of work. But on those other frequencies like 2.4 gig and 1.3 gig, you typically get 1 to 3 pilots in the air at a time. So they're okay if you're alone doing a long-range flight, but if you want to fly with friends, 5 gig is the place to be. Ponyoni points out you have to build your Prusa. You can buy Prusas pre-built. They're expensive as hell, but like I was thinking about getting a 3D printer, and the problem is like I don't want to get into 3D printing. I just want to be able to print things now and then. 3D printing is this huge discipline, and I'm into quads. If I was going to spend 5 hours a week learning to 3D print, I would spend 5 hours a week doing a KISS build or something like that. I just don't have the time. And so I looked at what it would take to buy a Prusa Mark III, just ready out of the box, boom, go. And it's like $900. I was like, yeah, I don't know if that's worth it. But yeah, Kyle K, I need a friend with a 3D printer. I have a couple. Yeah. Ron Grant says, coming from a 2500 kV on 4S going to 1750 on 4S, will the rotation change? Yeah. Ron Grant, I think you meant 1750 on 6S, but you accidentally typed 4S. So here's what you do, Ron. Here's what you do, Ron. 6S out of 4S is 1.5 ratio. So your voltage is 1.5 times higher. So you take 1750 kV times 1.5, and that is the equivalent 4S kV. So a 2625 kV motor on 4S divided by 1.5 to go the other direction is equivalent to a 1750 kV motor on 6S. You'll get approximately the same RPM. Now you've got a 2500 kV motor on 4S, so we divide by 1.5, and that is roughly equivalent to a 1666 kV motor on 6S. So going from 2500 kV 4S to 1750 4S, you will actually get slightly higher RPM. All else being equal. Loose Prop FPV says, after I did the Fat Shark L1 mod, the goggle and module gets warm. No, that's normal. It's normal for the rapid fire to get hot. It's just working. It's just working. Why are there EU and non-EU versions of the Taranis R9M? The EU version goes to 500 milliwatts. The non-EU version goes to 1,000 milliwatts. Yeah, that's because the regulations are different in the EU versus the FCC rate area, juiced. And the frequencies are also different. EU uses 858 megahertz. FCC uses 915 megahertz. If you put the FCC firmware on your R9 and try to use it in the EU, two things will happen. The cell phone signals will knock you out of the air. You'll get terrible fail-safes, and you will interfere. Sorry about that. I smacked the mic. You will interfere with the cell phone networks, which means if you do it enough, you will get a call or a visit from some people who are very unhappy with you. So don't do it. If you're in the EU, run the EU firmware. Yep. Some people are like, just do it anyway. If all you were doing was transmitting at a higher output power on the same frequency, you probably would get away with it. But if you transmit on the wrong frequency, here's the thing. If you transmit on a cellular frequency, they're going to notice, and they're going to be mad at you, and they're going to come find you. Cell phone companies, they are always watching for interference with automated tools. They care about providing service to their customers. You will get in trouble. That is, I mean, you might get away with it if you just don't. They'll notice. They'll be like, every Sunday at 2 p.m., this one cell tower sees interference, and somebody is going to be there Sunday at 2 p.m. when you go to fly to have a stern conversation with you. Yeah. 868, my bad. 868 megahertz. Anyway, don't interfere with the cell towers. Gear Trones asks, is Orca 1 the only high-end goggle to wait for? Well, here's the thing, Gear. I'm always trying to read the tea leaves. And the beautiful thing is that as soon as Fat Shark says to me, hey, we have a new product coming out. You want to know about it? Okay, but you can't tell anybody. Then I'll clam up, right? So whenever you hear me talking about something coming, you know that I'm just guessing. And I want to be clear about that, because sometimes I say, I want to be clear that I would never violate an NDA. So if you hear me babbling and I wonder if Fat Shark's going to release a new goggle. I don't know anything. I want to be clear about that. But here's the thing. Orca's working on this goggle, right? Fat Sharks, they're not dummies. If I'm Fat Shark and I see Orca releasing this new goggle, I'm going, wow, let's see how they do. Because when I was I went to China in January of 2018, and I visited the Fat Shark factory, and I interviewed Greg French, the owner of Fat Shark, founder of Fat Shark, and I said, why don't you make a better goggle? And he said, it'll be $800. And I said, he was like, I don't think anybody would buy an $800 Fat Shark goggle. They would just yell at us for making an expensive goggle. He said, maybe I'll do it someday. That's the gist of it. So if I'm Fat Shark and I'm Greg French, I'm looking over at Orca going, hey, they're doing our market research for us. Will people buy a $650 FPV goggle? Let's find out. And now the Orca Kickstarter just blew up, sold out in no time. And if I'm Fat Shark, I got to be looking over there going, oh. So is Orca the only high-end goggle to wait for? It's the only one that anybody, including me, actually knows about. But if I were Fat Shark, I'd be thinking maybe there's a market for a $650 FPV goggle with a high-resolution screen and a big field of view. I would not be surprised if sometime in the next 4 months or 6 months, Fat Shark dropped another goggle to try to compete directly with Orca. Maybe it'll be a limited edition or something. Maybe that won't even happen. Maybe Fat Shark's just like, nah, screw it. We're just going to keep making HDOs. But that's other than that, I don't. Yeah, that's only. I can't think of anybody else. Orca has huge cojones to try to do what they're doing. They're taking a big risk. I hope they succeed. I think they will succeed. I can't imagine that there's two companies out there with the money and the guts to do what Orca's doing. So no, I don't think anybody else is going to make a high-end goggle to compete with Orca. The only person who could even begin to think about doing it is Fat Shark. And I hope that, let me put it this way. I hope they do. I hope, and I don't mean this because I want Orca to succeed, but I also want a robust marketplace with good competition. If Orca is the only person out there making $650, $700 high-end FPV goggles, I'm a little bit sad about that. And since Fat Shark is the only one out there who could even try to do that, I think, then I hope that Fat Shark does it. But Frank, we are nuking the spammers. They're all different accounts. Every time a spammer pops up, we hide the account. The account is dead on the channel. But then when the next one comes up, it's a slightly different channel. They're all different channels, Frank. They make just a million of them. So every time you see one, we nuke it. Yep. Okay. OCDFPV on the Discord wants to know if there's any benefit to having caps on all 4 ESCs and one on the XT60. OCDFPV, if you have individual ESCs, my experience, you get better results by putting the caps on the ESCs as opposed to on the XT60. Once you have about 1 to 2,000 microfarads of capacitance, I don't think there's much benefit to having more. If 1 to 2,000 microfarads doesn't do it, then more you have too much noise. You gotta take another approach. So I would put like a 330 microfarad on each ESC, and you're good. Then putting another 1,000 microfarads on the XT60, I don't think that's going to make much of a difference. Oh, I see. Ron Grant says, no, I did mean 4S, and thank you for $10 in the super chat, Ron. Very generous, thank you. If you go from 2,500 kV to 1,750 on the same quad, no, Betaflight can't keep the rotation the same. Basically, Betaflight adjusts the throttle output from 0 to 100% to try to achieve the targeted angular rates. But the thing is, your motors themselves are just going to be spinning slower. And you'll be at like 35 or 40% hover instead of 20%. So your hover position is going to be higher. Your quad's going to fly slower. You're going to accelerate slower on punch outs. Your rotational rate might be about the same, but you will definitely notice a big difference in how the quad handles. You'll get longer flight times too. So, Gareth Seymour, any advice on fixing a TBS Race Pro HV, which is underpowered on 25 milliwatts? It was not picking up on our race tracker. Thanks. Gareth, what I would do is I would first look at your antenna. TBS tries to do a pretty good job of hitting their targeted output powers, especially at 25 milliwatts. Like a lot of manufacturers don't bother calibrating 500 milliwatts, 800 milliwatts. They're just like, you get what you get. But everybody tries hard to, not everybody. The reputable manufacturers try hard to hit 25 milliwatts dead on because people are using it for race tracking. So I would definitely check the antenna, Gareth. If you are pretty sure that regardless of the antenna, the video transmitter is not putting out 25 milliwatts, you should reach out to TBS support. Tell them your situation and see if they would take it back or exchange it for you. That's what I would do. Patrick Close wants to know, is it okay that my VTX is above my flight controller? Yeah, it's okay. It's not great. Generally, you don't want anything touching the flight controller because it'll cause vibrations. But I had at least one build I can remember where I put the VTX right on top of the FC. Use some foam tape to isolate it. It should be fine. It should be all right. Let's see here. DSCB says, I'm Belgian and I hate it because nobody flies here. Guys, if you are Belgian, please reach out to Lugus Studios. They are in Hasselt. They are the makers of the Liftoff Simulator, and all of them fly FPV. They're all FPV fans. If you're in Belgium, it's not that big of a country. So, how far could you possibly be from Hasselt? Right? How big is Belgium? Yeah, reach out, go to the Lugus Studios Facebook page. There's also a Liftoff Discord server. If you're in Belgium, I mean, Lugus, I hate Lugus. I apologize for just making you the core hub of FPV in Belgium. I don't know any other Belgian flight groups, so I just tell people to go to Lugus. I'm sure they don't mind. I'm sure they would love to hear from you and put you in contact with other FPV pilots in Belgium. Yeah. Keith Sloiter says, you're forgetting the third possibility, which is that China clones the Orca and Fat Shark and sells them cheaper. Keith, the thing is, China has never yet succeeded at doing this. I mean, look at the... Sorry, I'm bumping my mic. I apologize. Look at the goggles coming out of China. Fat Shark is based in China too, to be fair, so they're also Chinese, but people don't tend to think of them as a quote-unquote Chinese company. Greg French is not Chinese by birth, but if you look at the companies like Eachine, Skyzone, etc., that are China-based companies, there's two kinds of goggles that come out of China. One is decent goggles, like Skyzone, EV200D. These are decent goggles. They're not perfect goggles, and in my opinion, in a lot of ways, they're not up to Fat Shark's standards, but they're decent goggles that compete on their own. I just released a review video roundup of $300 goggles, and the Eachine, the Skyzone, the Enway Commander, barely, and the Attitude V5 were all on the list. If you look at the vendors, and they were all about $300. If you look at the vendors who try to compete on price, the ones that go, I'm just going to make the cheapest goggle that I can, all of those goggles are terrible. The Top Sky Prime 1S is one that comes to mind. They hit the specs sort of, but the actual goggle was just garbage. It was just fell apart. It was broken. It had bad QC. Look at the Eachine EV100D. Tiny, tiny, tiny screens. I think that the FPV goggle market is so, it's been shaved right to the edge of what it could possibly be. And anytime somebody tries to beat the goggle market at its own game, they end up making a crappy product. You can't go... I don't think you can go down in price much lower than about $300 and still make a decent goggle. I just don't think you can do it. And even the $300 goggles, look at the $300 goggles. Eachine EV200D, a lot of people 3 months after they buy them. Like, how many? A lot. Like, is it 2%? Is it 5%? I'm not saying it's most. I'm not saying it's 50%. I'm just saying I hear a lot of people who say, yeah, 3 months after I got my EV200D, they died. So these $300, and look at the Fat Shark. The Fat Shark Attitude V5, solid goggle. 640 by 400 resolution. No HDMI input. Fat Shark made a solid goggle, but they had to give up a lot to get there. So I feel like at $300, anybody who goes cheaper is going to make a crap goggle and fail. So I don't think there's much risk of cloning these goggles for a lower price, because I think these goggles have already shaved all the fat that they can. That's my opinion. Okay. How much fun did I have at Multi-GP.io this year, says Chris Ledford. Multi-GP.io was amazing. It was always great to get out and meet you guys and meet the people who are watching the channel and say hi to you. I didn't actually fly any packs. I didn't even buy a pilot pass. I just wanted to go. I wanted to be there, meet you guys, witness the glory of Thomas Bidamata winning and Alex Vanover crashing out. I don't know why I enjoyed that so much. Vanover's such a punk. He's so proud of himself. No, I love Vanover. Don't get me wrong. Bidamata really earned that one, though. It really goes to show that winning a race is not just about being the fastest pilot. Bidamata is legit fast. Don't get me wrong, but I think that Vanover, what did he end up placing? I think he didn't. I'm not going to say a number because it'll be wrong and it'll insult him. But he got mid-aired. There are so many really, really good pilots who just get a bad mid-air and they're out, and it's well, what can you do? And racing is, I wish there were a way that we could make racing purely about skill and not as much about I accidentally mid-aired somebody. But, I mean, that's just what it is. It's just racing. So I had a good time. I was really happy to be there. And I'm glad that I was in bed before any golf carts got crashed into any gates. I had nothing to do with that. Thank you. I'm acting guilty now. I really was. I had bronchitis. I was in bed. Still getting better. Okay. Fat Shark Terminators are not coming back these more. I don't know why Banggood wants to alert you that they're in stock, but they'll never be. They're not making them anymore. Gummix, why don't you cooperate with Banggood? What are you talking about, Gummix? I have Banggood affiliate links all over my channel. I get shit for it from people. They're like one of my. Yeah. I cooperate with Banggood. What are you talking about? Okay, glad we could clear that up. Yeah, time trials, 507 RC. I wonder, I mean, look at how they run the Tour de France, right? They'll have time trial stages and they'll have regular race stages. I wonder what it would take. I wonder what it would be like if you had a pure time trial setup. It would be certainly less, it would take a lot longer to run. And, I mean, I guess qualifying is kind of like that, isn't it? Qualifying is almost like a time trials, although people are on the track at the same time. They space them out, though, so that they don't crash into each other. Yeah. I don't know. Anyway. Well, I think... Oh, it's 3 p.m. That's going to do it for the live stream. Thank you guys for being here. We're going to finish up the live stream. I want to let you know, before you go, there will be another live stream tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I do one at 1 p.m. on Sunday and one at 8 p.m. On Monday, Eastern Time. Just 2 a week. Q&A live streams. It's very nice to have you guys here. I will be working this week. What's coming out this week? I will be working on, I don't know if it's going to come out this week, but I'm going to be working on FPV receiver testing. I also so we're going to do another big round of FPV receiver testing. I also want to let you guys know that battery testing is coming back. You may recall I have a big expensive battery test machine and I haven't published results in literally months. And I'm not going to go into the details of why that has been that way. The bottom line is that I decided that I was not able to put the time in, and I have got 2 assistants who are running my battery testing right now. Thank you to these guys. I've actually hired, these guys are working for me part-time. So if you're wondering where your Patreon money is going, that's where. I've got one guy running the tests and one guy collecting the data and giving it a second eye. So I will be releasing more battery tests, hopefully starting this week. They just got to get into a spreadsheet. And I will my goal is to be running the battery tests consistently. All I have to do is buy the batteries and send them to this other guy, and he's going to do the testing for me, and I'm no longer the bottleneck. So I hope to have those rolling out again soon. I appreciate you guys' patience with them not being up. So more battery tests this week. Yeah. That's going to do it, though. Thank you guys for being here. I will see you later. Happy flying. Get out there and fly if the weather's good where you're at. There's still plenty of time today. Shumi Hugo, I have not announced the winner of the yellow charger. I'll be doing that drawing today. I will be doing the announcement. Yep. It's the same socket, NetMonk. It's the same socket. See, I'm still answering questions. I'm trying to leave the chat. Alrighty, guys. That's going to do it. See you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.